notifications. There are more ways to watch and find video. To get the new WTRF-7 News app, just update the latest version or download the WTRF-7 News app in your Apple or Google Play Store by searching WTRF.
For all of your IT needs, visit OmniPerforms.com. Omni Strategic Technologies, the only IT company that the watchdog trusts.
Babies come with lots of decisions.
Cloth or disposable? Crib or bassinet?
So when it comes to protection, go with the safest, most effective choice, vaccination. Get all the recommended vaccines for your baby by age 2 to protect your child against 14 serious childhood diseases. For more reasons to vaccinate, talk to your child's doctor. Go to cdc.gov/vaccines or call 800-CDC-INFO. A message from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Are you or your loved ones facing a serious legal battle? The law office of Paul Harris wants you to know you aren't alone. Do you need someone that's not afraid to go to trial and fight for your rights? Attorney Paul Harris and his team are willing to go where most firms are not. The courtroom. With a successful track record in civil litigation, criminal defense, including tax issues and healthcare fraud, Harris Law Office will fight for their clients by offering the most aggressive representation in and out of court. Call Paul Harris at Harris Law Office for a free consultation. 304-232-5300.
Ready, set, go get your Toyota today. Check out Toyota's wide range of all-wheel and four-wheel drive vehicles, like the brand new Corolla Cross, with available all-wheel drive and more cargo room than ever. Or go off-road in a rugged new 4Runner. Visit your Toyota dealer today or go online to buyatoyota.com, the official website for deals. Hurry, reserve yours. Offers end April 4th. Toyota, let's go places.
Start your spring cleaning early with 11% off everything at Menards. Declutter and organize your home with a new Dakota closet system. They come in a wide variety of sizes and styles to match your specific needs. From easy-to-install units to fully customizable systems, Dakota's got it all. Save with 11% off all Dakota storage solutions. Good through March 19th. Savings are mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
Wealthy special interests have spent years rigging the tax code in their favor, leaving the rest of us behind, and now they're asking for even more. House Bill 4007 would blow a $265 million hole in our state budget, jeopardizing funding for schools and health care, making much-needed improvements in child care, affordable college, and paid leave impossible, all to give another big tax cut to the richest people in our state. Tell your state legislators, reject HB 4007, paid for by the West Virginia Working Families.
More live and local programming than anyone else in the Ohio Valley. The Watchdog returns in moments.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors.
On FM, on AM, online, on demand, and on video. We are where you are. The Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe is here now.
Well, it's going to be a nice week. Temperature-wise, we're in the 60s all week long, close to 70 by Friday. Mid-50s for the weekend, and a little bit of rain for the weekend, but basically a very, very nice week as we march our way to the first day of spring, officially on Sunday. Looking for a high today of 62. We're currently at 44 degrees at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport, 40 degrees here at my home studios in the Elm Grove section of Wheeling, and 42 at the Robinson Auto Group Studios, downtown Wheeling. In the heart of the Ohio Valley, lots to talk about on the Ukrainian front coming up with Tom Squidieri, our national correspondent, only a handful of minutes away. We'll delve into a lot of the Ukrainian stories, some things happening today. The defense secretary going to talk to NATO. There may be some of the other NATO nations traveling around, trying to meet with Zelensky. The questions that a lot of people have to me, and I'm going to pose to Tom, is can we, the United States, somehow be more directly involved, if not militarily on the ground, but with providing planes or other material? If we're not going to, why aren't we going to? Tom and I will talk about all of that coming up in just a couple of minutes. The best states to watch, to see UFOs and to see ghosts Came across a little interesting tidbit about this yesterday. I thought I would share some of it with you. And also, whatever happened to that big UFO report? The Pentagon kind of released it early last year, and it was going to have more information coming out. Whatever happened to it? According to at least one ufologist, the Pentagon is now clamped down after looking like they were going to open up on UFOs. What do they call them? They don't call them UFOs, Biffy. They call them something else now. UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon.
That's it.
The UAPs. We'll just continue to call them UFOs. Pentagon has begun to show a little bit more transparency, released this report, and then they decided, no, apparently we're not going to do too much more on that. I got a little info for you. I'll share that with you coming up a little bit later on. And of course, the legislative stories continue. The Washington legislature wrapped up at midnight on Saturday. It was a wild and woolly day all weekend long. Bills came, bills went, all kinds of efforts made to squeeze as much through as possible. The clock management didn't work real well for the GOP's supermajority. One of their key bills, the anti-racism bill, the anti-CRT, critical race theory bill, was held for some reason until right at the stroke of midnight. I mean, literally the stroke of midnight. And they took a vote at the stroke of midnight, and they approved that anti-racism bill. But after the session ended, the Senate clerk took a look at it and said, guys, you didn't get under the bell. You didn't have that passed before the stroke of midnight came. We're going to talk about all of the education-related bills at the legislature, everything from teacher pay raises to the critical race theory bill and many others as well, charter schools and home schools and learning pods, which I've never heard of until this year. We'll talk about all of that with Dale Lee from the WVEA, the West Virginia Education Association. And we'll continue to kind of wrap up the session with our Capitol report from Jeff Jenkins and the team at Metro News right now.
This is the Metro News Capitol Report, brought to you by AARP West Virginia. AARP is your ally for real possibilities in the Mountain State. Connect on social media at AARPWV or learn more at aarp.org/WV. Today's report in 60 seconds.
AARP is your ally for real possibilities in the Mountain State, a wise friend and fierce defender for everyone in West Virginia as you get older. With 250,000 members and communities in all 55 counties, AARP is working every day for you. We have financial tools and health guides to help make sure the good things in your life live as long as you do. We're working to protect your hard-earned money, sharing tips and tools to help you spot frauds and scams. At the same time, AARP is advocating on behalf of West Virginians 50+ and their families at the state capitol.
Thank you. Yeah, I got it. It went to my spam. I found it. Thanks.
Find us online at aarp.org/WV.
Governor Jim Justice says he has work to do now that state lawmakers have finished their 60-day regular session. The governor says he has more than 200 bills to consider for his signature or his veto. Justice says even though that's a lot fewer bills than former legislators used to pass, it still could be considered too many.
We have changed and passed thousands upon thousands of bills, and how in the world we still have 293 that need to be passed, I don't have any clue. You know, they'll be coming for my consideration. I've signed 34 bills so far without a veto and everything, and I promise I'll carefully look at the 259 that are coming to me, and can't really comment on those bills at this point in time. You know, I'm pleased that, all the bills that I sent up, passed.
Justice did give some comments Monday on the bill that would split the state DHHR into two agencies. He hinted he may not sign the bill, but agreed to study the issue.
Now we got some time, and to try to, jam a round peg into a square hole and everything. Now we got some time.
Justice will have several days to sign the bills once they reach his desk. I'm Jeff Jenkins on Metro News, the voice of West Virginia.
You know, I'm very often at odds with Governor Justice. That's a big surprise. But I do think he's right. This DHHR bill splitting the Department of Health and Human Services into two separate agencies, a Department of Health and a Department of Human Services. I see the value behind the concept, but the bill moves this awfully quickly, and I'm not sure the mechanism is in place yet. And I'm kind of with the governor. This is going to require a little thought before they can go ahead and do it. So don't very often say I agree with Governor Justice, but in this case I do. And again, coming up next hour, about an hour from now, we'll talk to Dale Lee, the president of the West Virginia Education Association. The bills that were the positive and negative bills for education during the session. Right now, though, at 8:16 here on the Watchdog Morning Show, it's time to talk with our Pentagon correspondent, Tom Squitieri, updating us on the Ukraine and other matters. Tom, good morning, sir. Good to have you here.
Good morning, Howard. Happy Tuesday.
Always a pleasure talking with you. I've got a question that a lot of people have been asking me about the Ukraine, and I will ask you that question in a minute. But why don't we kind of hit the highlights? So this is an ongoing story. What's happening? What's happening today? What's happening on the diplomatic front? Where are we at the moment with the invasion into Ukraine?
Great, sure. Let's focus first on the non-shooting part of the war, because I think that's important. President Zelensky of Ukraine is scheduled to speak to Congress tomorrow, Wednesday, virtually, in a joint session of Congress, which of course is a big deal. He is going to he is talking to lawmakers over the past weekend privately, pushing for more aid, pushing for jets, pushing for a no-fly zone. He's expected to make those requests public tomorrow. About a week and a half ago, he spoke in a similar manner to the British House of Commons and received a standing ovation. He invoked Winston Churchill's words of World War II about fighting on the beaches, etc. We will never surrender, and applied them to Ukraine, and it just went over big. So we're all waiting to see what he's going to say. The other thing that's interesting today, Howard, is that the prime ministers of Poland, the Czech Republic, and Slovenia plan to travel to Kyiv today, to talk with Zelensky and their foreign counterparts and diplomats. They're traveling to Kyiv, I want to emphasize that, which is under attack and partially surrounded by Russian troops. I mean,
in a minute we can talk about the implications of that diplomatically, but just as a practical matter, that's dangerous stuff. I mean, that's a pardon my language, that's a ballsy move.
Yeah, it's a war zone, and it's an active war zone. And obviously, people are getting killed and wounded every day, including journalists. And so it's not a safe trip at all. And the fact that they're doing this is just, I think, incredible, both, as you said, was symbolically as well as practical. In the war front, Russian troops, over the weekend, Russia bombed, hit an airstrike, I should say, in far western Ukraine, almost about 12 miles from the Polish border, which was a training camp site for troops. That's a major escalation in the geographic warfare. There was 3 other strikes yesterday in western Ukraine. The idea is to both disrupt any military supplies coming, as well as to further harass civilian, in this case, refugees heading west into Poland and other parts of Eastern Europe. The Russian troops are essentially still stalemated around the urban areas. They're moving slowly. They're trying to resupply, and there's going to be Syrian troops coming in to help the Russians, Libyan troops coming in to help the Russians, which again is just startling that they need these kind of reinforcements. I'll stop there and let you go ahead.
Well, I mean, there's so much we can talk about. There's depends on who you listen to. If you watch the various news shows and talk shows. I won't say the Ukrainians are winning, but are the Ukrainians surprising the Russians? Let's put it that way. Has this been a surprise to Putin? How much resistance they put forward?
Absolutely. That one, I don't want to go into the winning or losing, as you said, but it's definitely, the Russians are definitely surprised at what's happened in Ukraine. They really thought that they'd come in and go quickly into Kyiv and install their own government, et cetera, and be met with more warm welcome than this type of resistance. They underestimated both Ukraine's ability to resist, its will to resist, and its tactical prowess in resisting, picking where it's hitting tanks. It's also been undermined by their own apparent ineptitude. The supplies are terrible. According to Pentagon officials, both on and off the record, their ability to supply ammunition, food, the basics of a military invasion are just faulty at best. And, they're looking now, the Russians are now looking to the Chinese for military and other assistance, including food for the battlefield. The combination of the Russian ineptitude at this moment and the almost flawless defensive maneuvering by Ukraine using its assets brilliantly has resulted in this war being more of a stalemate in this early stages than anybody, well, I should say almost anybody expected.
We are obviously symbolically and practically at a certain level being very supportive of the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian government and President Zelensky. We are imposing the sanctions on Putin and on Russia. We are clearly taking sides, put that in air quotes. But it looks to me like we're being extremely careful how far we go in doing that. The question that a lot of people have asked me over the last few days is, why aren't we getting more directly involved? Maybe not sending troops. I don't think anybody's yet ready for that. But why did we tell Poland, for example, we don't want their planes? Why don't we offer more material to the Ukrainians? Why don't we be more upfront about our support, short of actually sending American troops? And I guess my speculation is, and you're inside the Pentagon, they've talked about it. My guess is we're being very careful not to actually put ourselves at direct opposition to Russia. Correct?
Yeah, that's a good way of summarizing the response to all of those. The Pentagon will quibble with you or anybody who says we're not supporting Ukrainians, and they'll cite the dollar amount of aid that we have sent, along with 14 other nations, I like to say. And that aid has been critical. I mean, we're talking about Javelin anti-tank weapons, which are the top of the line in that category, and they're being used effectively by the Ukrainians to take out these Russian tanks. There's Stingers, there's other things that are being provided. So the military aid, and there's no secret the United States is providing this, and Russia knows this and is warned about it. So there's no sleight of hand, and as you said, we've picked a side, and it's Ukraine. We're supporting Ukraine. Now, and the question of the jets thing, the military jets and the no-fly zone and all that, that does take the President Biden and Secretary Austin have been clear that U.S. troops are not going to go into Ukraine to fight Russians. Okay, and then at one point, John Kirby, the Pentagon press spokesperson, noted, when we say we're not sending troops into Ukraine to fight Russians, meaning on the ground, we're also not going to send them into the air to fight Russians in the air. Okay, and that's what a no-fly zone will entail. You having U.S. and other NATO pilots in the skies above Ukraine to keep Russian planes and the other planes out of the air, and that means if you go up to a plane and signal it to leave and it doesn't leave, you risk a dogfight, and that obviously has implications down the road. Now, the whole thing about the Polish jets is it's not confusing. It shows a misstep among many people. Poles have old MiGs that they don't want to have. They want to upgrade to F-35s, U.S. planes, and they thought this is a good way to move them out to the Ukrainians who need new planes. It sounds really good on paper, and I don't want to get too far in the weeds. However, it's important for those who ask the question this. Those are old MiGs, and they may be, and even though the Ukrainian pilots have trained on MiGs, they might not be the MiGs that they know how to do. So there might be a training issue. Second, how do you get them there? You fly them there and risk them being shot down by the Russians. If you dismantle them, you have to then reassemble them and test flight them. So it's not just like, oh, we'll just fly these planes over there and do it. And also, if Poland wanted to give the planes to the United States, therefore it'd be the United States giving them to Ukraine. That was a cute little sleight of hand by the Poles. So, well, we don't have anything to do with them going to Ukraine. Well, the United States doesn't want that. If Poland wants to give them the planes, they can, but they have to do it. So that was more of a inter-NATO kind of two-step than anything else.
Because we're clearly at tremendous conflict with Russia right now, with Vladimir Putin. But having said that, we still have some things we have to deal with him. We've got the issue of the basketball player that's over there. We've got interesting tidbit. we may need the Russians to help us get one of our own astronauts back from the space
Well, yeah.
station, right?
That's correct. The astronaut, the U.S. astronaut up there, Scott, I think Vandelay, today he will set the record for Mark Vandelay. Today he sets the record of the longest American in space flight, 340 days. Okay, he's supposed to come back at the end of this month with 2 Soviet cosmonauts in a Soyuz capsule, a Russian capsule from the International Space Station. That goes down in Kazakhstan. This is how it's been done, for years now. A U.S. or a Russian capsule picks them up. And, it's still scheduled. NASA said yesterday it's still scheduled to return at the end of this month. And NASA then sends a plane over there and a small group of people to get him in Kazakhstan and take him back to Houston. Now, this up until, I think it was 2020, when SpaceX started being able to put astronauts in space, it was always the Russians who took the astronauts and cosmonauts and others up to the International Space Station. $10 million a seat. It's expensive, okay? So now with SpaceX, the U.S. has other options down the road if the space station actually stays viable. But yeah, that's an interesting complication because you clearly have the Russia and the United States at odds over Ukraine and more, yet here's a U.S. astronaut up with 2 Russian cosmonauts. And I read a story this morning that NASA said that he has avoided talking about the Ukrainian issue with his fellow cosmonaut.
That's probably a wise move.
Yeah,
That's kind of like Thanksgiving dinner with your grumpy uncle. It's just as well not to talk politics.
Yeah. So I suspect that he'll come down fine with the other 2, and they'll let him leave. I don't think they'll keep it. You talk about escalatory moves, Howard. Should he land in Kazakhstan and everyone's safe, and then the Russians hold him and the other NASA folks there, and that would up the ante obviously a lot.
Tom, I try very hard during this situation, this invasion into Ukraine, to not try to make it some kind of a movie or a made-for-TV movie or something, because it is easy for me with that mindset to imagine. Well, first place, we're all, I think, thinking of Putin as kind of a crazed man, and that may be a wrong way to look at it. But with that perspective, it's kind of easy to see Putin saying, we will keep this man for a while. I don't think that's going to happen, but if you put yourself in the right mindset, you can see that.
Oh, I agree. I would not. I mean, it's something that I would think is not likely to happen, but I would not say, oh, it's not going to happen. I wouldn't rule it out. He may, they may discover that the astronaut has some rare illness that they have to treat him for, or something like that. They might. There's a lot of things, that can happen.
It is interesting the number of Americans who have really gotten behind this effort. I mean, the amount of relief money that average Americans are putting up through the Red Cross, through disaster relief agencies, and so on. There are people who are taking up arms and say, we're going over there and going to fight. I mean, this has really motivated an awful lot of American citizens and worldwide citizens to want to stand with the Ukraine.
Yeah, it's very fascinating indeed, what you just said. And you and I discussed a couple shows ago how I had been in Bosnia, and I remember then the feelings of many Americans who just didn't understand what was going on and had limited ties to what was then Yugoslavia, except in some big cities like Chicago and Buffalo and Pittsburgh, where there were folks who came from that part of Europe. But I think what you said about Putin, and that's the other thing, Putin is a recognizable entity in this. Americans are familiar who Putin is over decades of his rule, so they can, this is this evil man. I'm saying this, not my own opinion. They could see what he's done over the years, and personify the war perhaps a little bit more. Plus the fact that there are a lot of Ukrainian folks, individuals whose families came from there in the country, especially in Pennsylvania. I think is the state with the second most number of ethnic Ukrainians in the country. So, you know, a pretty close neighborhood to where you are. And so it has a little bit more visibility, say, than other conflicts. And still, many Americans still do trace their heritage or lineage to Europe. And so, and that's not right or wrong. It's a fact, you know. So in other words, they're more perhaps aware. You have Poland and Slovakia and Romania. So it's not just Ukraine. There's all these other, Lithuania, Latvia, all these countries that are vocal about supporting Ukraine. They have people who there years ago came to the United States as well. So I think there's a lot of reasons why this has gotten the visibility and stirred people to, as you point out, support Ukraine in many, many ways.
Putin, as you point out, is a known entity, or at least we think it's a known entity. To the average person, that's a name that we know. Oh, Putin, Russia, we get that. Most people do.
Yeah.
Zelensky, not so much until this occurred. Now we're being reminded that he's the guy that had the phone call with Donald Trump.
President Trump, right, yeah.
Trying to help, when Trump was trying to get him to do the dirt on Hunter Biden. And Zelensky has now become, I think now most people do know Zelensky, he's a very charismatic leader. He's probably the right man at the right time to be the face, if you will, of the Ukraine.
Yeah, and people may forget that phone call that you mentioned with former President Trump, with President Zelensky, where President Trump threatened to withhold military aid to Ukraine unless he cooperated. So, I mean, you know, there's a little bit of resonance there to what's happening today about that as well. But you're right. You know, President Zelensky, people were, well, he went to law school. He was he did great in law school. And he won the Ukrainian version of Dancing with the Stars. And, of course, he was a comedian in a movie where a comedian becomes president of Ukraine, and then he does. So, I mean, he's a fascinating person. And you're right. His speeches are just incredible to read, let alone, I don't speak Ukrainian, so, you know, it loses a lot in not understanding the words. But just the delivery, as you could say, is very charismatic, even if for someone like me who doesn't understand the language.
Putin is clearly a man, I don't want to say of the past, but Putin is a man of a different generation, and you can tell when you watch him, when you see him speak, or when you get some video of him talking to his, you know, cabinet and military and so on. It is reminiscent of a day gone by. He's kind of a reminder of the Cold War. There's a reason for that. He was a key player in the Cold War. But Zelensky is a modern guy. His use of the media is really good. He knows what he's doing when he gives speeches. He knows what he's doing when he took some of his leaders and they walked through, was it Kyiv they walked through the other day? They walked through downtown Kyiv. You know, that's a very smart messaging move that a younger person like Zelensky would get and Putin would not. So the contrast between these two guys is really interesting as well.
And he does know, I'm going to build on what you just said, Howard. He knows how to stay on message. Remember a couple of weeks ago when the conflict started, and I guess the United States was offered to give him security out of the country. He says, I don't need a ride, I need ammunition. Boom. Short, punchy, and that's been the theme. I'm not leaving. Just help me stay.
Yeah. Now so you got. I mean, again, I keep using the movie analogy, and this is by no means a movie, but you know, you've got the old evil empire almost compared to the newer, more nimble, more media savvy Zelensky. You've got the old guard of the Soviet Union's remnants. Marching on a group of ragtag, defenders of the city. I mean, it really is a fascinating story that we are watching unfold. Yeah. And I don't mean to minimize it. There are people dying. It's a horrible situation. But it's just
and I'm also concerned, Howard. I'm very concerned. I don't mean to cut you off. I know we're running out of time. I am very concerned about the talk by Russia charging the United States and Ukraine with manufacturing chemical weapons. This is a page out of their book where they accuse others of doing something, and then they formulate it as if there was, like in this case, a chemical attack. And so there are parts of this conflict where you push Putin into a corner or make him feel like he's losing control of what's happening there, because he is at the moment anyway. He's not in control, if not losing control. And this can escalate in his mind because he I think the key here has to find a way to use the cliche, find an off ramp for Putin. And Zelensky and those folks keep talking with the Russians. They keep promising to talk to the Russians. They're trying hard. That's the challenge for the West now, is to create this off ramp so things can slow down and they don't continue to escalate because Putin feels like he has to prove something.
Well, maybe Elon Musk will solve the problem since he challenged Putin to a fist fight.
Yeah. Good pay-per-view. That would help the Russian economy.
Indeed. All right, Tom. Appreciate your help this morning.
Okay.
Your insight's always good. We'll talk again next week. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Tom Squitieri, our national correspondent, works out of the Pentagon, so we get a lot of good inside info on this Ukrainian situation. It is interesting, Biff, the contrast between Putin. I mean, Putin is just such, you see him and you hear him talk, and it is so reminiscent of the old Soviet Union. You picture him, Soviet Union, big guy, just with the KGB behind him and so on. And Zelensky is so much more of a modern man, punchy in his delivery of things. Just again, smart, just simple things like he and his generals walked through the streets of Kyiv the other day. Can you picture Putin getting out? Everybody talks about, especially when Trump was in office, Putin's a man's man. He rode horses bareback. But can you imagine Putin walking through the streets of a city under fire? I can't. I mean, I think he would be hiding in a bunker somewhere. Zelensky went out and started walking through the streets.
Yeah, I think no, I couldn't see Putin doing that. Not at all. I mean, it'd be probably one of those deals where he doesn't even get out of the car, just kind of gets out enough to look, and then real quick duck back in, and away you go. One of those type deals. Yep.
It's just a dramatic contrast between leadership styles and personalities. And again, I don't, like Tom said, I don't want to get into winners or losers. I probably, if you had to, you'd say that the Russians are winning, but the Ukrainian resistance has been a whole lot stronger than I think Putin ever expected, and certainly than probably much of the world expected. Now, here's the downside to that. Does Putin at some point just get so dang angry he throws the whole kitchen sink at him? Does he at some point get so mad thinking that I was going to just walk into this country, take over, they are fighting me back, and does he just, I hope I don't want to say go nuclear, but there's the possibility of chemical weapons. Is he going to put more forces in, just literally run over, bomb the city? Men backed in a corner, even if he's not really backed into a corner, again, I would say, if you had to say who's winning, the Russians probably are winning in this, but it's not what he expected. And when someone faces that, someone with the personality that I tend to think Putin has, you know what they tend to do? They tend to lash back twice as strong. So could be this, I don't know, Governor Justice yesterday offering that $5 million to build a maternity ward to replace the hospital that had been destroyed in the Ukraine. He said, but we would do all of this after that war is over. The question is this going to be a long, protracted thing? Is this, a year from now, are they still going to be sending tanks through the streets of Kyiv and other cities, or will the Ukrainian people, trying to put an end game to this, I just don't know. Or to use Tom's phrase, I don't know what the off-ramp for Vladimir Putin is. I don't know, short of absolute victory, what options Putin has. So, and I continue to say, and I think you would concur with me, Biff, you and I both said it before, I'm not in the mood to send American troops in there. I don't want to do that. I'm not, but on the other hand, if this drags on, at some point, we've got to bring some resolution to it. I don't know. It's a dangerous thing that we're watching. I guess maybe that's where I'll leave it at. 8:41, 19 to the hour here on the Watchdog Morning Show. Let's shift gears completely. When we come back after a news break, let's talk about UFOs and ghosts. Ooh. Where are you most likely in America to see flying saucers and ghosts? I'll share some of that info with you in a little survey that I came across last night just for fun. Here on the Watchdog Morning Show, 8:42, 18 to the hour. We're still looking at 44 degrees at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport, about 42 here at the home studios and at the Robinson Auto Group Studios downtown Wheeling in the heart of the Ohio Valley.
Now it's time for your local news headlines.
Debuts today in the John Marshall High School Center for Performing Arts from 5:30 to 7:30. The inaugural event will feature 3 guest speakers focusing on 3 different but related topics. The event is free to attend and open to the public. Let's look at your headlines. Have a great day, everyone.
A surprising end of the season for the WVU women's basketball program. Hi, everybody. I'm Tony Caridi. That story and more coming up on today's Mountaineer Report, brought to us by Kroger, the official grocer of WVU Athletics.
At Kroger, we believe fresh means holding our produce to a higher standard. That's why we do up to a 27-point inspection on our produce. Like for citrus, we check for things like scarring and sunburn. Yep, oranges can sunburn, and we'll make sure you never see it. In fact, we only allow the best oranges, lemons, and grapefruits to reach our shelves. Because when it comes to fresh for everyone, we believe the juice is worth the squeeze. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
42 million Americans struggle with hunger, yet 35% of the food in this country is wasted. Those aren't just numbers, they're our neighbors, your daughter's friend from school, the family of 4 next door. The Kroger Company's Zero Hunger, Zero Waste Foundation is committed to making fresh food accessible to all by ensuring it never goes to waste. Together, we can help end hunger. Learn more at zerohunger.zerowastefoundation.org.
A surprise announcement coming from the WVU Athletic Department on Monday. The WVU women's basketball team declined an invitation to play in the NIT. WVU's athletic director, Shane Lyons, in a release said the following: while we appreciate the invitation for our women's basketball team to participate in the WNIT, we've made the difficult decision to decline the invite. Team injuries, along with student athletes set to enter the transfer portal, have limited our roster availability, and we would not be able to proceed and provide a competitive or positive experience for our student athletes. So that means the WV women's season is over, a 15-15 overall record, a 7-11 mark in Big 12 conference play. WVU's baseball team will enjoy its spring break in the state of North Carolina. WVU opens up a 5-game trip today, meeting up against the Duke Blue Devils this afternoon in Durham. WVU freshman right-hander Chris Sleeper on the mound. He's 1-1 so far this season. West Virginia 3-8 all-time against Duke. The two schools last met at the 2019 NCAA tournament, a 4-0 Duke victory. WVU's wrestling program sending 4, including redshirt senior Killen Cardinal, to the upcoming NCAA Division I Wrestling Championships. They begin later this week, taking place in Detroit. That is today's Mountaineer Report. It's brought to us by Kroger, the official grocer of WVU Athletics. I'm Tony Caridi on the Mountaineer Sports Network from Learfield.
Millions plan for retirement online. Estimate your future benefits, apply for retirement, and manage your benefits all from the comfort of your home. And give yourself the freedom to do what you want offline. Social Security's online services help put you in control with secure access to your information anytime, anywhere, allowing you to spend more time with family, friends, or simply just enjoying the day. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. See what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
We are compassionate.
We are focused.
We are confident.
We are dependable.
We are resilient.
We are skilled.
We are empathetic.
We are knowledgeable.
We are respectful.
We are here.
For you and your family.
We are close to home. We are
WVU Medicine.
Ready, set, go get your Toyota today. Check out Toyota's wide range of all-wheel and four-wheel drive vehicles, like the brand new Corolla Cross, with available all-wheel drive and more cargo room than ever. Or go off-road in a rugged new 4Runner. Visit your Toyota dealer today, or go online to buyatoyota.com, the official website for deals. Hurry, reserve yours. Offers end April 4th. Toyota, let's go places.
For all of your IT needs, visit OmniPerforms.com. Omni Strategic Technologies, the only IT company that the Watchdog trusts.
Hello, it's John Kozik, founder and president of TurboTrack Realty, and I buy houses as is, fast for cash. Call me today for an all-cash offer on any of your properties, and we can close within days at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000. Do you own a property that's outdated and needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Great, I'll buy it. Give us a call today for an all-cash offer at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000. Would it be convenient for you if you could simply take what you wanted and leave the rest behind? Great, I'll buy it. I buy all types of real estate completely as is. I buy vacant properties, inherited homes, divorce situations, death in the family, apartment buildings, rental portfolios. I even buy my tenant won't pay me the rent houses. Call TurboTrack Realty today for an all-cash offer and speak with one of our friendly staff members at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000.
The timeless sounds of polka live here. Join us 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays for the Polka Showcase with Rich Biella. Sunday mornings never sounded so good. You're never more than 30 minutes away from local and regional news with ABC News every hour. Plus coverage from Ohio, West Virginia, and WTRF TV at 1/2 the hour here on The Watchdog.
Broadcasting from the Ohio Valley, talking about the Ohio Valley. We're live and local. This is the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe.
Watchdog Morning Show brought to you in part by WVU Medicine, encouraging you to check out our Twitter feed. Just a general rule, check out our Twitter feed. Also, my Twitter feed, I tweet at Radio Monroe. The Watchdog's Twitter feed is at WatchdogWV. And keep in mind that our Twitter feed now includes the morning show video feed. So if you want to watch the video, you can watch it on Twitter. Watch it primarily on the station's video Twitter feed at WatchdogWV. I normally try to retweet it onto my timeline as well, but you can always catch it at WatchdogWV and follow it that way. Of course, if you want to watch the video feed, it's also on our website, watchdognetwork.com, where you can see the video feed right there on the screen, or you can just check the audio feeds if you're not near a radio and you want to listen to us anyways. You can listen online. Just click WKKX or WVOY. The buttons are there, and you can listen. all different kinds of ways for you to listen. We try to make it as easy for you as possible. We are on air, on AM, on FM, online, on video. We try and be wherever you are, so it's hard for you to miss us. Okay, some of you want to miss us. I can't do that. If you want to miss us, that's your problem. Some of you continue to make snotty comments about my retirement joke. Spinning off of Tom Brady yesterday. I said I was going to retire at the end of the day yesterday and then unretire today. See, Brady did that, and so I did that. It was a little joke. And, some people are saying, well, it wasn't a very funny joke to begin with, but boy, it's sure isn't funny now. I don't know. I think it's funny. Text line, Howard, if people are texting you about your show during your show, that probably means they're listening to your show. Good point. Very good point. Text line, Howard, they must not hate you that bad, or they wouldn't be listening to you. Now, some people listen with a specific intent to hate. They do it just so they can say nasty things about me. And I get that. And it's okay. It's all right. 44 still at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. 40 degrees here at my home studios, and 42 at the Robinson Auto Group Studios downtown Wheeling in the heart of the Ohio Valley. It's going to be a mixture of sun and clouds today, probably more clouds than sun, but we'll see some sun during the day. Nice warm 62, the predicted high. Start working our way up till we hit 70 on Friday. Drop down to the 50s with some rain over the weekend. But all in all, as spring begins to arrive, we work our way to spring's arrival on Sunday. We're looking at a pretty nice week. I wanted to grab just a couple of little local tidbits that I wasn't going to put them as top of the morning. They're not worth a huge amount of our in-depth discussion, but it's just worth a conversation or two here. City of Wheeling announced, I think yesterday, that they're getting $3.8 million, let's call that almost $4 million, in federal money. Man, think about all this federal money the city is getting. They got the almost, was it $30 million they're trying to spend from the American Rescue Plan. They're holding these meetings on that. They've gotten some other federal money for projects, and now a $3.8 million for several projects in the city coming from, what I want to talk about is, I love this, Biff. It's called the Congressionally Directed Spending. Congressionally Directed Spending. Now, once upon a time, when the earth was green and I was a little boy or a young reporter, we called these things earmarks. Earmarks were when members of Congress were able to carve out real specific projects for their districts. And in West Virginia, we had some of the best. Obviously, the king of pork was
Senator Byrd.
Senator Byrd. Senator Byrd just kept bringing the pork on in. Those were called earmarks, and no matter, every time you turned around, another earmark for Wheeling, for Cameron, for Beckley, for whatever. The Senator Byrd was great about that. Alan Mullihan was another one who really was able to bring a huge amount of federal money into the local area from the government. They were called earmarks. And then, earmarks, why should they be allowed to decide how the money is spent? The budget should just be the budget, and the money should, it became a real big political thing. We don't have earmarks anymore. So now we just call them congressionally directed spending, which actually is a more honest term than earmarks. It's just congressionally directed spending. Money that our congressional members are able to help direct to the area. Senator Manchin and Senators Capito were both part of the efforts to get some of this money here. Let's see, the Wheeling projects include a little over $1 million for upgrades in technology at the new public safety building in the city of Wheeling. $500,000 for reuse and redevelopment of the old OVMC building, now owned by the city of Wheeling. $150,000 for improvements to the roof of the Center Market House. $550,000, a little less than that, to work with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to design and engineer flood control improvements on Elm Run Creek. That is a creek that perpetually floods when we get heavy rains, and that's a good money there. $1 million for upgrades to the Wheeling Artisan Center. I'll be curious to see what the plans are for that. And $620,000 for a new Wheeling food hub by Grow Ohio Valley. I'm going to tell you, this Grow Ohio Valley, folks, they got awful lot of money, federal money and other kinds of grant money coming in. The public market turned out to be good, even though I criticized it when it first opened, but I don't know, this Grow Ohio Valley. So, I'm looking, okay, money for the OVMC building, money for the new public safety building, money for new roof at Center Market, money for flood control. All that makes sense. But a new Wheeling food hub by Grow Ohio Valley, that doesn't seem to fit in with the same category. But nonetheless, there it is. Ohio County Schools last night talked about their calendar for the coming year. Looks like they're going to start school a little bit later than they had, might not start until August 23rd. That's what they're talking about with their calendar. The interesting tidbit that I saw in the Jocelyn King story about this is that they are considering putting remote learning in as an option for after they've used up all their school days. If we had or snow days, I should say. We had a lot of snow days this year, and those were built into the calendar, so, they were planned for. But we're reaching the point where those days have been used up, and if you went past the required snow days, the snow days put into your calendar, then they're going to have to extend the school year. So they're thinking about next year, if they use up all their planned snow days, instead of extending the year by a day or two, simply going to remote learning for those couple of days. Wheeling Symphony, we've talked a lot about that. We've had John Devlin in here a couple times to talk about the return to the Capitol and both the Pops concerts and the Masterworks concert. Wheeling Symphony was given the Governor's Award for Resiliency in the Arts. Basically, the fact that they were able to continue performing even through COVID. They came up with clever and creative ways using Zoom and video and broadcast and other kinds of things to keep the symphony alive while they could not hold big concerts at the Capitol Theater. And Brian Bronlick, the director of the symphony, and the maestro, John Devlin, went to the Capitol and received that award recently. And I think that's a pretty good deal, too. And finally, on the just a couple of tidbits of local news, out of Jefferson County, the people who own the Samus power plant say they're going to close it. They have a goal of being 100% carbon-free next year. And as a result, they're getting out of all fossil fuel businesses. Obviously, that upsets folks who get their money from the coal industry, like Bill Johnson, congressman from Ohio. He calls it an example of the radical environmentalists having closed the plant. Someday we're going to understand that the world is changing on this issue. All right, it's 9 o'clock. We're going to talk with Dale Lee from the WVEA about teachers and the legislature. That's next on the Watchdog Morning Show.
The Watchdog is FM 98.1, AM 1600 WKKX Wheeling, FM 97.7, AM 1370 WVLY Moundsville.
In key cities in Ukraine, including the capital.